Hello and welcome to the IRN-CRU podcast, a podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. I am your host on this fine week, end of week 17 leading into week 18 of our NFL season. Ross Studs Stirling, and I am joined as everyone gets back their sobriety after the festive period, and I am joined by our very own Scots Pats fan, Danny. How are we doing, Danny?
I'm brilliant, mate. How are you doing? You had a great Christmas?
I did. I had a very relaxing and chilled out Christmas with the family. We were up in the lovely Killen with the in-laws, which meant a lot of drinking whiskey and beer with my father and brother-in-law.
Sounds awful. Somebody's got to do it.
That's it, mate. That's it. So I've spent the last 2 days sobering up, to be honest. What about yourself? You have a good one?
Good, pretty quiet, mate. Not doing too much, just chill with the boys, and yeah, just a really kind of good time, and just so much football on as well. You know, sports in general has just been a bit wild all this period. You know, if it's no darts, it's football, American football. You know, the whole works. So it's been a great time to just be able to kind of put your feet up and watch some good action. You know.
Absolutely, mate. If ever there was a time to have multiple screens in one room, as you said, it was the festive period. As you said, you've got the darts, you've got the Ali-Pali hitting its peak just now, and then you've obviously had a Christmas Day NFL games, and I think the only day we didn't have an NFL game was Boxing Day. I think the NFL needs to sort that one out.
They do.
Well, I suppose if you're in the UK, you have got one on Boxing Day. I think the Ravens and Texans crept in, but we would like a decent hour time for the UK supporters.
A good drinking time, you know. You want one where you can crack a beer on and enjoy it, and don't feel like a complete alky at 3 a.m. and you're still going.
You get one eye open trying to kind of see what's happening.
Exactly.
Just imagine if it was Tyreek Hill that was, or Justin Jefferson that was running, it would just be an absolute blur. As you said, mate, we've been spoiled over the Christmas, the last few days with games on Christmas Day, and I think it's probably only right that we start our week 17 review with those games. And again, that leads us very nicely into the Netflix doubleheader, which was in fact my very own Kansas City Chiefs starting us off against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I must admit, I don't know how you felt about this one, Danny. I was pretty disappointed in the Steelers. I think it'd be safe to say, considering they were sitting at 10-5, 5-1 at home. TJ Watt, I know he's kind of banged up at this point in the season, but he is still a monster in that defence. I genuinely had fears for Pat Mahomes, given our left tackle issues over the course of the season. But I was pretty disappointed in the Steelers. I don't know about yourself, mate.
Yeah, really disappointed. I thought if there was ever a loss coming up, given Christmas Day, given, you know, you've already you hadn't quite clinched the first place in the AFC in that bye, but you're just about there. I thought, well, if there's a hiccup to come, then this is the one you kind of mark for it. But you know, because was it last year you lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day?
That was a horrible game. You know? Horrible game.
So there is this sort of, you know how these kind of prime time, you know, festive sort of days can go, and you know these games can go. But yeah, Pittsburgh just never really showed up. You know, I think when you look at the main stat, like you kind of hit on there, is like TJ Watt. You're kind of assuming he's got to get in and wreck the place. Well, 0 sacks, 0 yards. They just never get anywhere near Pat Mahomes. He'd all time. He can just sit back there, pass the ball about, spray it about, and does what he did best. And yeah, to be honest, although Keenan was at 13-7 or something at the half, it just never felt like it was out with the control of Kansas in this one.
Yeah, no, as you said, Pat Mahomes just seemed to be able to kind of do what he wanted in this game, and it showed in his stats. He was over 300 yards passing on the day, 3 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy obviously getting flagged for showing off his muscular physique that he's well renowned for.
Copying myself there, you know, he's obviously following the same diet plan as me.
I know, that's that. If only we all had a body like that after Christmas Day dinner, we'd all be laughing. It was, the Chiefs just done what they want. Big talking point, obviously, Travis Kelce breaking Tony Gonzalez record as well. And I know Tony G has mentioned that he'll be paying for the fine after Travis done his vintage celebration of trying to dunk the ball, because I think the ball went up rather than dunked back down, but we'll not get into that. But yeah, for me, again, I mentioned obviously the left tackle issues we've had over the season. Joe Thuney has flawlessly stepped into that left tackle. You'll know all about him as a former Patriot. We paid him a good few years ago. To see him move from guard out to left tackle, I was pretty worried that had obviously opened up that gap in the guard position, because it has been unbelievable for us there. But he just seems to have stepped across flawlessly into left tackle and really digging us out a hole in that position. The last few weeks will look a lot more solid. Mahomes is getting his time, taking a pick out these routes and stuff. So I think that's been a pretty shrewd move to move, just slide through the across. I don't know what you think, mate.
It's just a class act. It's one thing that if you take it through Bill Belichick, the GM's sort of tenure, and look at where he really made the bloody arse of it, is he should have just given a whole wad of cash to Joe Thuney and signed him up for life. The issues that we're having, I'm sure we'll come to that later on. But yeah, no, he's and that's the main thing. We already know that. Everybody kind of seen that after the Super Bowl gets Tampa, Tom Brady. Well, you get to Patrick Mahomes, you make him uncomfortable, you're going to unsettle his rhythm, his flow, everything. His game can fall apart. The best thing you can do is protect him. He can then scramble when he needs to. He can, make those deep passes. He's obviously got Xavier Worthy back, Hollywood Brown back, so, and Kelsey's really starting to step up now as well. But it all does lead from the front, and if you can protect him, keep him upright, don't let him get flustered, then you're always going to see the best of Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I do. Over the past kind of couple of seasons, I've been really impressed with those kind of three in Thuney, Humphrey, and Trey Smith. I love seeing Trey Smith pancake people, and he seems like a genuinely nice guy as well, to be honest, after the kind of incidents at the Super Bowl parade last year. But those three guys, as you say, that's your starting point in any team. If you can get that right, obviously your right and left tackle are massive parts of that as well. You can get those guys in the trenches, you're going to do good things. You're going to give your quarterback the chance, and that's literally what we've seen for the Chiefs in the last couple of years. And again, similar to last year, they seem to be finding a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more momentum going into the business part of the season. I don't think it's any secret that they'll probably rest a lot of guys this week when the Broncos come to town, which is probably not going to be good news for a few of the teams that are lurking, as they've been saying on NFL. But it's all right.
So how do you feel about that one as a Kansas fan? You've either got, it's looking very likely it's either got to be Joe Burrow with the Cincinnati Bengals or Denver Broncos, obviously sitting in your division. What one would you prefer to let in? What one do you not want to see in the playoffs? What one do you think is a harder game?
Honestly, I think the way, and again, Joe Burrow's the one nobody wants to see. Don't care what team you are. Joe Burrow and the way that offense is flying, you do not want to see them. They have their deficiencies in defence. We know that.
Deficiencies is an interesting way of putting it.
That's probably being mild about it, but Bo Nix is still a rookie. You've got the added pressure of being a rookie in the playoffs. How does he handle that? It hasn't always worked out for rookies. So, if I'm honest, the team I'd want to see in there is Miami, because I just don't rate them. I think the Broncos' defense can win them games. Cincinnati offense could very well take them quite a way in the playoffs. So, for me, I'd like to see Miami in there. I think it will be the Broncos, though, if I'm honest. But Joe Burrow's the one you don't want to see.
No, definitely not. Just before we go in there, obviously Pittsburgh. What do you make of them actually going then into the playoffs? So they've obviously clinched a wild card spot.
Yeah,
one and done. Or does it depend what version you're actually going to get? What one's going to show up?
I definitely think it's what one shows up, because we've seen Russell Wilson a couple of times this season. He's had these good games, he's had these flashes. Obviously, they're not they've not clinched a playoff berth by accident, right? They have absolutely earned that. They've probably shocked a lot of people in how well they've done. Again, that defence can always cause a problem. Not as always, but can always cause a problem. The likes of Hayward, TJ Watt, these kind of guys in there can cause issues. So I think it depends what Pittsburgh you get in the day. Mike Tomlin is an excellent coach. There's no getting away from that. But again, I think they've got the potential to go one and done. I don't see them making the Super Bowl. I think they're probably looking at divisional and then they'll be out. I think it probably depends who they get, to be honest, in that wild card round. If they get a favourable draw, then I think they could be okay in getting a divisional round. But we shall see. Time will tell. So, we'll briefly move on to two other AFC playoff teams that have clinched their spots. Again, on this one, I don't really know that there's much to talk about, and that's probably a good thing if you're a Texans fan, but we had the Ravens and the Texans. Ravens coming out in top 31-2. CJ Stroud just could not get anything done at all. The whole offense, I don't even think Mixon done much, to be honest, for them. The defense, which was probably Houston's strongest point so far this season, could not stop Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson really just nailing himself into that MVP conversation. Probably for me, is still the front runner, and I know we're going to touch on the kind of MVP race as well. I think Lamar's probably still just the front runner in this one. I think there's a bit of recency which is why people are favouring Josh Allen. But I think if you look at Lamar's stats over the season, I think he's been so consistent. He just seems to be in a different zone just now. And it has been this season for the most part. I don't know what you made of this game, but again, similar to the Steelers game, I was probably pretty disappointed in the Texans again. I think they're going to struggle in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so. I think CJ Stroud's hitting a wee bit of the kind of sophomore slump sort of thing there. But then again, they're a pretty banged up team. They've had Joe Mixon in and out. It doesn't look entirely healthy. We know that Diggs is out. We know Tank Dell's out, and they've got a lot of problems at wide receiver. Obviously, the big thing for Lacey is the defensive side of the ball. They just couldn't stop the run in this game. Derrick Henry, Lamar just seemed to do whatever they wanted to them. They just ran a well to the point, what was it? Lamar Jackson threw the ball 15 times or something. It was for 168 yards. They didn't need to. Why? Because you can go 147 yards with Derrick Henry, another 87 on there with Lamar Jackson, and they can just run it right down your throat. The defense was really good as well. I don't think there's too much to take away from this game. I think everybody kind of knew it was done by half time. The fourth quarter, it's we had Josh Johnson in there, and everybody was kind of enjoying themselves. It was time to I checked out anyway. Well into the fourth quarter, I was like, "This game's done. Might as well get to my bed." No, but it's. I think it's one of these ones where the Ravens now starting to just get their rhythm. As Lamar starting to feel himself in the right time of year. What can CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans do to actually pull himself back? Last year, Bobby Sloak was, seen as, the next Ben Johnson sort of thing, the one that everybody was wanting to hire and interview and stuff for head coaching roles. And they seem to be getting a wee bit more of a hard time this year. They've just not clicked the same way. So, again, Houston, I think that's the one that everybody will want to get, who's a wild card team. I think they're the ones that's going to struggle a wee bit more. Especially, obviously, they'll have a home game. They've won the division. I'm pretty sure, they've won their division. So, they're getting a home game at least. So that's one all the wild card teams are going to want to go and play. And then, as I say, from a Baltimore side, it just depends what one show up. But I do really fancy Lamar Jackson. Like you say, I think there's, when you're mentioning the MVP there, Lamar is, to me, the standout between, if you're doing it between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar is by far the actual MVP between those two. But I do think it is. I'm sure will come is Joe Burrow. I think he's playing the quarterback at a whole new level, something that is far like we've not seen since 2007 Tom Brady. I think he's actually playing a much higher level than we've seen recently, even with Pat Mahomes and everything he's done. I think given the O-line he's got, and yeah, he's got Jamar Chase there, but I think what he's actually doing is he's taking that quarterback position to a whole new level. Just to kind of touch on that one, mate, since you brought it up.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, we will obviously touch on the kind of MVP guys and as we kind of go through. And I know obviously Saquon Barkley has broke that 2,000-yard rushing record, or joined the 2,000-yard rushing club this weekend. He's obviously still in that conversation, but again, we all know that the MVP is more or less a quarterback award now. So I think he's a stick on for the offensive player of the year.
100%.
I do think Joe Burrow, I don't think you can move him out of that conversation of the MVP. I would actually probably even have him ahead of Josh Allen, again, for what he's done with that team. Nothing Joe Burrow has done has caused the Bengals record. If anything, it's definitely helped them and kept them in contention for as long. The issues are on the defensive side. There's nothing Joe Burrow could have done more, I don't think. So again, for me, I'd probably actually, if I was kind of ranking them, I'd have it Lamar, Burrow, Allen as my three in that kind of order. I do think it's a lot closer between Burrow and Lamar. And again, if you look at the stats on what they've done in this season, I think Burrow's ahead of him in passing. But again, that probably comes down to the fact that he's not got a Derrick Henry behind him. As good as Chase Brown has been, he's still no Derrick Henry. So
not many people are Derrick Henry, let's face it. that man's made different.
Absolutely. He is just a different beast. But again, you're even seeing it with Lamar. He's still got that rushing ability to the extent where in this game he was saying he was jogging into the end zone as he didn't get touched for 40 yards. So he's still utilising his strengths, but he is still chucking the ball about when he has to as well. And I think Burrow and Lamar's a closer conversation than Allen and Lamar, for example. Obviously, Burrow and Allen, I think, are still quite close, but I do think Lamar's just ahead for me. So I'm kind of probably similar on that front to you in terms of Lamar Allen. If it was Burrow, I don't think I'd be surprised. Just what you were saying about the Texans here is the team that the wildcards would probably want. I'm just having a look at, so you're probably looking at it being, right, so the Broncos, I don't think they can get fifth because of the head-to-head with the Chargers. I think it's between the Steelers and Chargers, depending on their results this weekend. If you're any of those two teams, you've got to fancy that trip to Houston.
Yep.
I know our very own Kilted Texan won't like me saying that. I think he's probably a bit more fearful. I think him, like a lot of people, fancied the Texans to maybe go deeper in the playoffs. I think that could be a real struggle for those guys, though, if they get any of those two teams. Particularly the Chargers, to be honest. I think with J.K. Dobbins coming back in that rushing game that they've had all season, I think based on what we've just seen for the Ravens in the rushing attack, I think that could pose them a real problem. But yeah, I'm similar to you, mate. I kind of checked out quite early in this one. To be honest, I actually even missed the halftime show in this one as well. Beyonce, my niece actually sat and watched it whilst I took the dogs for a walk. But
I watched it, and I was up giving it a wee hold down and stuff there.
I did intend to watch it, to be honest, but I was like, nah, the dogs need to go. I can't delay this any longer. So, but
you can rewind it on Netflix. I'm just saying.
I know.
Slow it down if you want.
All right, before we get kicked off on that front.
Sorry.
It's not that kind of pod, Danny, we know this. That's for the OnlyFans account.
Right, let's move on, mate.
Let's move on, because Keith will absolutely kill us on this one. Right, so a game we're talking about checking out. The next one was Friday. Early hours in the morning for us. Seahawks and Bears. I don't think anybody checked in for this one. I really don't. The fact that it nearly went to overtime as well, I think is just mind-boggling. 6-3 Steelers. Okay, well done, Seattle. I don't really think there's much more to pick in a head on it unless you get anything.
Nah, see you next year. It's kind of, there's nothing to add about this game. I guess that we can kind of bring up every time is sort of what are Chicago doing. Given just, if you want to just touch briefly on it, this game's nothing to discuss. But the bigger picture is, what do the Bears actually do going forward? How do they maximise and get the best out of Caleb? How do they, that juggernaut, which is the NFC North, and I'm sure we'll touch on that coming up with a couple of the games. How, they need to do something. They can't be putting up 3 points at home. It's just, no.
No, definitely not, mate. As you say, sorry Keith, sorry Grant, in case she's listened back to this, but there was no real redeeming factors. All the scoring done in the first half kind of says it all really about this game. So, yeah, I think we just move on quickly. Hope, again, as you said, see you next year. And hopefully a bit better placed.
It's just not much to say about it. It's two teams both knocked out the playoffs, so we're not going to see them one more game. It's got to be done. But yeah, it's been, that is a card just kind of to run through those 3 games. So we kind of touched on disappointing all round, I think I would say. I think Netflix killed it. I thought they did really well. I thought it was actually a really good production value, and I thought everything went pretty smoothly. Didn't have any issues my end with, what happened with that boxing match. They did. But I thought it was really good. Just disappointing that the games were so boring, to be honest. Which, it was something I was really hoping for, maybe sit back with a beer and try and catch them and enjoy some of the games. And unfortunately, they just never lived up to the Christmas Day hype.
No, definitely. And I think that's, as you said, if you're Netflix and you were given the 2 games at the start of the season, you're absolutely rubbing your hands. Holmes against the Steelers, Lamar in particular against CJ Stroud, you were rubbing your hands. It's just unfortunate those 2 games didn't deliver. As you said, production was great. And again, same with the Amazon one for the Seahawks Bears. I do enjoy listening to the production crew and listening to Sherman and Big Wit. Love listening to those guys. They've tried their best, but it's no their fault the games were damp squibs.
Yeah, there's only so much polishing a turd you can do in there. So
absolutely, mate, absolutely. Right, speaking of polishing a turd, we're going to move on to the next games. We're going to go to the Chargers and the Patriots. Absolute demolition job by the Chargers. They came into Foxborough. Patriots, we know, haven't been great this season. Again, an understatement, sorry, Barry. Seemed like, again, similar to what we said about Mahomes and Lamar, they just seem to be, Herbert seemed to be able to do what he wanted. Dobbins the same, able to run over that defence. The word soft has been bandied about a couple of teams this season. I think even Gerard Mayo even said that there was a bit of a softness to them. Some of your players have come out saying they lack an identity. Where do the Patriots go for here, Danny?
First overall pick in the draft, I guess. The only one factor you've kind of got here is the only shining light of positivity is Drake May. We actually have a franchise quarterback, and that's it. I don't understand, just to let me go on a small run, I don't understand what the hell Robert Kraft has done. We had a ton of cap space this year, and we didn't spend it. We had another disaster of a draft outside of Drake May, which, let's face it, he landed on our lap at number 3. That wasn't really much of a decision to be made, but the rest was an absolute shocker. Again, we were mentioning in the text chats and stuff like that as we're kind of watching the game, the fact that, we traded out of the Lad McConkey pick. We swapped that with Chargers. They took that so we could take Polk. And as it was well documented, McConkey had more receiving yards in this one game than Polk and Baker have had the entire season.
Yeah.
Sums everything up that it's been a disaster. I don't understand why they put this management team together. We have a rookie quarterback, a rookie head coach, a rookie defensive play caller, a rookie offensive play caller, although Alex Van Pelt has been a OC in other places, notably the Browns, but he wasn't actually the play caller for that. That was Stefanski, obviously, was taking charge of that. You know, and even like our linebackers coach and stuff, big Dante Hightower, as much as I love him, he's never been a coach. He's never even coached bloody high school or anything like that. So where's the adult in the room? You know, we've got, before the game, we had Mayo saying the fact that Stevenson was benched and it would be Antonio Gibson was going to be taking the snaps at the start of the game. And no, Stevenson was at for the first drive, the drive. Yeah. How does that happen? You know, it was in all the production notes, it was well discussed before it, and then it gets changed, and it comes in and said, coach's decision. What the hell does that mean? You know, if it was me, I would blow it all up. I would sack them all. Covington, you know, Mayo was a great linebacker in his day. He was, you know, he meant to be a defensive head coach. Where this defense was at last year compared to this year, it just shows you how much a shit job they've done. You know, I know I've lost some players, but this defense just isn't working at all. That's been the big disappointment. You know, you just got to look at the box score on this one. You see how many sacks was it? How many pressures on Justin Herbert? None. Just sat back, and he could all day there just to pick them apart, and he's just too good. You know, you've actually got to get at him, get off the line again. So fair play to them. But yeah, other than Drake May, it's a disaster. Bin them. Yeah. Chargers, on the other hand, mate, I've got to say, I am slowly getting impressed with them. I think, again, they're just ticking away at the right time. I think they could win a playoff game, depending on who they're up against. I think they've got something about them. Harbaugh's really instilled a winning mentality and hard to beat. Again, just a physical team, just dominate the trenches. Like the running game, you know, J.K. Dobbins' back was massive. He had 76 yards in this game. Herbert, 3 passing touchdowns. You know, I thought, as much as New England were shit, I thought Chargers actually were pretty good for it as well. And it wasn't even as close as 47. It could have been more if they wanted. So, yeah, it's as much as I've kind of got to say in this one. It was a deeply disappointing, considering the way the Patriots played against the Bills the week before and how far they actually pushed them. This was a game at home. You're thinking they can win this. They just could have, if they had the right matchups, they could have done something, and they completely and utterly shat the bed. And with that, that's the that should have been the point that Mayo's fired. But I doubt Robert Kraft's got the balls for that. So
yeah. Do you think he'll stay next season? Do you think he'll give him one more shot?
Aye, because Robert Kraft's too much get too much an ego. He doesn't want to be shown that he's wrong. He doesn't want to show the fact that he lucked into Bill Belichick and he lucked into Brady to build a dynasty. Nothing to do with him. They actually done it in spite of him, because again, he's a really cheap owner and he doesn't spend any money. So rather than actually going to pay Ben Johnson, go get Vrabel with Josh McDaniels or something, go and make a statement this offseason. He will not back down. He'll double down. So he'll probably run it back. We'll end up with maybe a new offensive coordinator or something like that, which I actually think Van Pelt's did okay, considering what he's got to work with. I'd have sacked Elliot Wolf as general manager. We'll probably get Covington sacked, the DC. I don't think he's done near enough a good job. I know Bill Belichick's the greatest defensive head coach ever, but the drop has been significant. You know, guys like Kyle Duggar just can't make a tackle. They're just getting blown up all over the place. We've got absolutely no pass rush. And I know we're missing pieces, but yeah, I just, the big changes all. I could do another long rant on this if you want me, but I'd rather move on. Nobody wants to hear that.
we'll move on, as we say. Well, the Chargers they're building a wee bit of momentum getting into the playoffs. So yeah, we'll move on that one.
I just want to actually touch on Davis, your man Davis. What a grab for his touchdown! Let's say very athletic. That was a lovely play by him.
That was an unbelievable catch. I think we all kind of appreciated that in a different chats. Unbelievable catch by the guy. So fair play to him for that one. Probably the highlight of the kind of early window games was the Bengals-Broncos. Two teams battling out. Bengals try to keep their playoff hopes alive. We know, we mentioned deficiencies in defence, putting it mildly, for the Bengals. For me, this game come down to time management. It went to overtime. For me, it should never have went to overtime. Chase Brown obviously sliding down, gets himself injured, trying to stay out the end zone, costing the injury timeout. I still think Zach Taylor made the mistake there of rushing the touchdown in on the back of Joe Burrow, giving Bo Nix too much time because he'd already been picking him apart for most of the game. We know how soft the Bengals defence has been this season. So for me, again, I'd love to sit and talk about how I think it was a great game. I'm not going to get away from that. A great offensive game. There was some unbelievable catches on both sides. T. Higgins was an absolute monster, showing why some team is going to get a wide receiver one when they pay him in the off-season, because I don't think it'll be the Bengals. I know the Patriots are hoping that it's there.
I'll be praying for him, man. He'll be my Santa list.
Aye. Well, it has been rumoured the Patriots are one of the teams in for him on that one, but yeah, for me, this one's a time management issue.
I think he added on probably about another $5 million a year just in this game alone. You can just see how dominant and how much a wide receiver one he can be. He's just unfortunate he's in the same team as Jamar Chase, who, you know, you could argue between him and Justin Jefferson about who's the best wide receiver in the league now. But T. Higgins was superb. 11 catches, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was brilliant, you know. And this game, it was a bit... I found it a funny game. Like it was, I found it a bit stuttery. It was a bit messy, you know, for 3 quarters, and then it just sort of exploded in the fourth quarter into overtime as well. I agree with you. I think I'd have tried to just burn as much of the clock as possible, but then they rely on Cade York to make a kick, considering what happened then in overtime, so you kind of go for it. The other thing that I was sort of shouting at, and like, I'm a massive fan of Bo Nix, by the way. I think he's a cracking player, and he'll have a long career. You know, when they punch that in the final settings, and he's running a bit like that, you know, go for two. I was expecting Peyton to go for 2. You know, it's just like he's usually so offensive-minded and aggressive. He kind of shut the bed, and it's something again that's sort of happened this year that I found myself more and more like just shouting at teams like just go for 2. I always think like put it in the hands of your best player. Like if you want to go and win the game, who's your best player? You know, so just stick it in. You know you're okay. The Broncos have got a good defense, a great defense. But you're looking up against Joe Burrow, who we've just discussed. You know, was it 39 of 49, 412 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's cutting MD apart. You know, it doesn't matter how good your defense is, he's cutting you up. So put it in your offense against that terrible Cincinnati defense, and actually just let your team go and win the game. Just go for 2 and go win it. And I think that's come back to haunt a couple of teams. I've actually a lot of respect for a team when they do go for it. And, you know, I think it happened a few weeks ago. I don't know if it was the Titans or something went for it and didn't get it, but well, why not? Like, try it and see what happens, you know. But I understand. I think Sean Payton said post game he was just sort of, you know, it was a tie and a win was going to give him the playoff sort of thing. So he played the odds. But when the thing is into overtime and they start, you know, messing up possessions and missing field goals, and it was just a bit of a crazy game in the end. It was just wild to watch. And I think at this point it was about 1 a.m. or something like that here, and we're still absolutely glued to it. It made for an incredible end to that game. It was brilliant.
Yeah, no, it was. The overtime was incredible, as you said, with Cade York's missed field goal and stuff like that, and it was just unbelievable to kind of see. But it was I do get Sean Payton's logic of the tie kind of seen us through as well and the win as well. But when your quarterback has just threw the pass that he threw to get them into overtime. Just go for the 2. Put it in the hands of your quarterback. I'm definitely in agreement with you on that one.
I just think the game that Mims had and Sutton, you've got good wide receivers in there. You've got McLaughlin running back. You've got good pieces there. So put it in their hands. Did they actually think his defence? I know they did stop them, but when Burrow's in that form, don't give him the chance to get the ball back in his hands. He can absolutely cook you with T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase, with Mike Gesicki, with Chase Brown, whoever it is he's thrown to, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I just think that was one that might have got away and maybe played a wee bit too cautious. But that's for me. I am definitely not an NFL head coach. So,
yeah.
But,
no, definitely. I'm totally in agreement.
So, I was going to just mention just how awesome Joe Burrow was. Again, given the fact he was sacked 7 times, he's obviously just still to put up, 412 yards, 39 passes, just unreal, absolutely exceptional. I think he's, as I say, for me, he's the MVP. Because realistically, where are Cincinnati going to be at the? If you did remove him for that team, where would they be? They'd be competing with the Patriots for the number 1 overall draft. That's how massive he is. And instead, they're actually still in contention for a playoff position. And I just find that a wee bit, the one game that they were absolutely kicking themselves about is losing that home game opening weekend to the Patriots. That probably is the game that's cost them really potentially a playoff place.
No, 100%, Danny. I think their slow start is once again going to really hinder the Bengals. Right. So, right. So we'll move on then to the kind of rest of the schedule on that one. So again, similar to the Seahawks Bears game, to be honest, we had Cardinals Rams again early hours of Sunday morning. Again, pretty much a kind of non-event on this one, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, Danny. Rams coming out on top, further cementing their NFC West win this season. I don't think they can get caught now. I know they were relying on some results. Yeah, I think they were relying on some results on the Sunday just to kind of confirm it, and I think the last game last night kind of cemented it for them. So yeah, Cardinals again, probably a season of what could have been for them, given the talent they've got in that offense. I suppose the talking point on this one, probably Trey McBride actually getting his first touchdown in the season.
Well done to him.
Fair play to him. The guy has still been awesome this season. Further building that relationship with Kyler Murray. He's definitely up there in the top tight ends conversation. But yeah, again, I think it's a game that most folk probably checked out of pretty early, unless you're a fan of one of those two teams.
Yeah, I think so. It's just Rams do enough to win, really, and they're just. I actually think this season's been really impressive by Sean McVay and the job he's done. All things considered, between losing Nakua early doors and Cup early doors and just getting banged up in a relatively young team, Stafford still doesn't really seem 100% either, and to be actually coached through. And again, they're not always blowing the doors off every team, but they're just doing enough, finding different ways to win. And again, nobody, I think, if they get hot, and we know fine well the connection that Stafford to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua, what that's like. Again, they can cause MD trouble in the playoffs. So, but like you say, Cardinals, I think it's just another sort of lost season. I think they'll be back stronger. I think they'll, Marvin Harrison Jr. will have a good off season this year. I think another year in the league is going to, do him good, another off season. And I think they'll continue to build. And really, that division is then there for empty really next year. You know, you're not looking at the sort of San Francisco team as a juggernaut, and they're going to roll it back. There's a good chance they'll blow everything up again and try and rebuild, start again. Rams are a pretty young team, and they have their faults. I think again next year they'll be even better. But I think there's some good pieces there for the Cardinals to build on next year.
Yeah, I think the NFC West is going to be an interesting one, especially if the Cardinals can take that step. I think this game next year, you mentioned young Rams defence in particular, the weapons that Stafford's got in and around them. Cardinals, if they can step up, this could be a division winner decider this time next year if they put that on. But I'd be interested to see. Right, I'm going to rattle through a couple of the early slate games because there were quite a few blowouts. I know there's a point you kind of want to kind of make on them, but on one in particular, some forgettable games in the early windows again. So we had the Raiders beating the Saints 25-10. We had the Titans losing probably the number one pick ball to the Jaguars 20-13. We had the Cowboys I'll go to the Buccaneers absolutely blowing away the Panthers, taking control of the NFC South. Baker Mayfield, another one who's been absolutely unreal. Mike Evans still doing it. Adam Thielen put him up, much to my disappointment from a fantasy perspective, with 2 touchdowns in a 100-yard game. But the Bucs kind of took control of that one in the second half and just dominated. And we also have Pat McAfee's Indianapolis Colts getting into MetLife Stadium and getting absolutely blown away by the Drew Lock Giants, much to Pat McAfee's chagrin.
Thanks, Drew.
Pat McAfee has not had his displeasure on this one. For anybody that's not seen it on Twitter, I would suggest you go and find it. He has absolutely tore into that franchise as a whole. So he is, I know he's not been happy with like the Anthony Richardson tap out and stuff like that, but he went ballistic.
But let's face it, mate, there's nothing he said that is wrong. Everything is that everybody's saying it. I think they're a bit of a mess. I think it all starts with Jim Irsay at the very top, and I think it works its way down. Anthony Richardson, I know he's a young guy, young quarterback, but again, tap him out. No, that shouldn't have been allowed. That should have been instantly right. You're on the bench for a long time.
See you next season.
Aye, well, he's got massive issues. He needs to go and work in his game. You can't be that inaccurate and be a NFL quarterback or start quarterback anyway. Yeah. They were an absolute disgrace, to be honest, in this game. The Giants are muck, to put it nicely, and they went through them like they weren't even there. The defending with the Colts was shocking, and to say fair play at them, the Giants, they did what they had to do, but for that team to put up 45 points is it's a disgrace to the Colts. And when they're still in the playoff hunt, they were still in contention. They still had something to play for. To get blown out like that, I think there needs to be big changes going. Which again, I think is a bit of a shame to do. Like Shane Steichen, I think he can do some really good things. I just don't like really what they've built around about him. So we'll see what happens there going forward.
Yeah, we'll see. As you say, we'll see how the Colts move forward in that one. And then, of course, we had the Buffalo Bills blown out Aaron Rodgers-led Jets. It was 40-0 early doors in the fourth quarter. 2 late touchdowns by the Jets, led by Tyrod Taylor, not even Aaron Rodgers, who still sits on 499 career touchdowns. Again, Bills just absolutely blew them out of the water. Normally, divisional games, like you mentioned earlier, Patriots ran the Bills close. You took an early lead against them. You showed what divisional football was about. The Jets just did nothing. The Bills could have done what they want with them in this one. I don't know if you've got anything they can add on that one now.
Just, I think, again, the Jets are an absolute disgrace to football, to be honest. They're Woody Johnson needs to blow it all up and probably start with himself. When you're hearing the fact that, he didn't want to trade for Jerry Jeudy because he's Madden rating to Sauce Gardner. I don't know if you've seen this come out today or last night, but Sauce Gardner put on Instagram or whatever it was, I think if I pay the man about T. Higgins, I'm sure something every day, and somebody else had commented, "Oh, tell me to come to Jets," and he wrote back, "I will not in capitals, be doing that sort of thing," And then you've got obviously Garrett Wilson isn't he happy? You've got Aaron Rodgers throwing everybody under the bus. Is there a bigger arsehole in the NFL than Aaron Rodgers? The guy should just hang it up, and I would love for him to do it, especially now. I love him just on 499 touchdown passes. That's it. Just don't let him get the 500. But he is now the most sacked quarterback in history. Good. That was 4 sacks. I just can't stand the guy. I think his attitude stinks. It's everybody else, the world against him. He thinks he's some fake intellect as well, and he's the smartest guy in the room. I think Dunning-Kruger, he hits very high in the curve there. To be honest, Tyrod Taylor coming on and showing well. I know it was garbage time, so a touchdown passes score, but come on. When Mitch Trubisky again, who would 101 for 69 yards and a touchdown, even showed him up in that one play, just time to beat it at this time for the Jets to completely clear house. Again, it goes back to why did he even sack Robert Saleh? Why even bother? Because they get worse when they did that. Any hope?
It seems like the Saleh change at the time was needless, to be honest. I totally agree with you in that one. Aaron Rodgers, I don't think his ego lets him retire on 499. I think even if he does not get a touchdown next week, I think in some way, shape or form, he finds a team and he comes back. Even for just that one touchdown, I don't think it'd allow himself to finish in 499.
He just looks done though. He's no mobile. He's no accurate. He's just lost a bit of zip, and which is a pretty sad indication though. The fact that I think he's having like the best quarterback season for the Jets ever, or something daft like that. And they're an absolute dumpster fire. It is time just to put them out their misery. It's another team, just like my Patriots or the Bears or the Titans or whoever it is going forward, that needs to have a real hard look at themselves in the kind of close season.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think they'll need to as well, because I think, as you mentioned, obviously Garrett Wilson not been happy. I think it's with Garrett Wilson, it's literally coming down to if Aaron Rodgers is back, I won't be type thing. Yep. So what do you want to do? Do you want to bring back Aaron Rodgers, who, as you say, seems to have lost a little bit of zip, lost that state, and lose out on a talent? And let's face it, Wilson is a talent. He's proved it with the quarterbacks he's had, how good he can be. So the Jets have definitely got some big decisions to kind of make in the off-season.
Sorry, mate. I think about that though. Is the Jets need to look at it? Is that the type of guy you want, Garrett Wilson? No, he's talented, but if he's checking out as well, there's a professional pride here. There's people who are paying good money to come and watch this team, and you play for them. You don't throw a hissy fit and a tantrum just because you don't like Aaron Rodgers. Well, guess what? There's probably about 2 billion people on this earth who don't like Aaron Rodgers either. So just get on the bus with him, right? Just go on with it, but go on and do your job. Don't throw a hissy fit. Don't give him a team, because it seems like, again, Sauce Gardner just looks like he's completely dropped off. I don't believe he is not a good player. He is a very good player. Seems like they've given up their team. So you've got to question that character. Is that something that you actually want to build a team or a franchise run about?
Yeah, so it's, I suppose, similar situation to the Colts, and they're talking about the kind of culture in and around the facility. Jets are probably in the same kind of boat on that front. Then, if that's what players are doing, then there's something about the culture that isn't right there, and that's kind of where you need your leaders to step up. Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be one of those leaders, but yeah, there's definitely kind of cultural things. So it goes a bit kind of deeper there, I think. Right, the late evening games, again, a game I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Dolphins and Browns. Dolphins winning 20-3. The Browns, we're talking about tyre fires. The Browns are on DTR. We're not expecting anything from them. Jerome Ford went out early in this one. He was there running back one last week and actually kind of had a good day for them. He was done early doors with an ankle injury. Dolphins kind of scoring touchdowns in the third and fourth quarters just to kind of finalise this one. Pretty disappointing first half. Probably a pretty disappointing game overall. Dolphins keep themselves in contention. They're obviously hoping for a Broncos loss, and that puts them in ahead of the Bengals, I think. I'd be interested to see how that works, who would go in first. I think it is the Dolphins and then the Bengals. I think the Bengals need both to lose next week. But yeah, Dolphins keep their playoff hopes alive. We'll see what happens this week, I suppose, is about all you can kind of say in that one. Browns still in contention for another number one pick on this front as well. And I don't think they win this weekend, even they played the Steelers, I think. I need to check that one. But yeah, Dolphins, Browns. Dolphins win. Not much more to say on that one.
No, mate, you covered it.
Right.
We can move on.
Let's move on to the battle of the NFC North from this weekend. So we had the Packers coming into the Vikings on this one. So finished 27-25 for the Vikings. Pretty slow starting game. First quarter, not much happening. Couple of missed field goal for the Vikings kicker, which they're more than familiar with. Packers get into a field goal lead, and then Sam Darnold started kind of chucking it about and finding the spaces, finding that well-known number one wide receiver, Naylor. He seemed to be his go-to target in this game for a lot of it. Justin Jefferson, I don't even think he recorded a catch in the first half. He was kept pretty quiet in the first half. But yeah, Vikings kind of taking charge in the kind of middle part of the game. Spirited fight back for the Packers right enough in the fourth quarter, getting themselves back in it, running it close, but the Vikings held on overall. Some of the catches in this one were unreal. Jordan Addison, unbelievable touchdown catch. The route he ran on that was just unbelievable. The Packers boy had thought he'd stopped on a short curl, and he's off. He just put half the burners on, and then to finish it off with a diving catch was just unreal. This weekend I am so looking forward to the Vikings and Lions. I said about 4 weeks ago I think the Lions take the North and take the number one seed. Still in that hunt for that to be the case, and it's coming down to this weekend. I think it's going to be fascinating now.
Yeah, I can't wait for that game. It'll be interesting to obviously see what happens tonight. We've obviously got that game still to go. We've no cover Lions in San Francisco, I think it is.
Yeah.
So, but I think the neutral everybody is hoping that that's a comfortable Lions victory, and then it goes into that kind of showdown next week and sort of see what happens there. And as I say, I think the kind of key for this is I don't come away thinking anything different with these two teams. They're two very good teams. Again, teams that you wouldn't want to meet in the playoffs. They've got their flaws. Vikings just seem to win all these one-score games. Again, it's almost as much as your Kansas City Chiefs, mate. He's loved it, but that's the sign of a good team. You find different ways to win. Like you're saying, Jalen Naylor and things like getting them involved. Again, where I'm not sure where he's come from. I'm interested to see how many fantasy, people had him and his ownership kind of percentage was, but when there's guys like you're still throwing to like Cam Akers getting involved and Munt and all these sort of different guys getting involved. But I think the key thing for me is what you actually spoke about earlier, and it's culture. When you see that video of when Darnold goes into the locker room, I think he was getting his LFG award or something like that from Tom Brady, and then his last one in the locker room, and the place just erupts, and they've got him up his shoulders and the water thrown everywhere. And it was actually, I saw something on Twitter, and it was actually just Kevin O'Connell just sort of sitting in the background, just like a proud dad, just looking at this culture that he's built, this dressing room where they're all fighting for each other, just loving each other, just trying to find different ways to win. And that goes a long, long way. Because if you're out there and these guys are just putting everything in the line for you, they'll go that extra mile for you. That wins you games, especially close games like this, especially against your big rivals, in Green Bay. That's something you're wanting to win. So I think it was brilliant. Again, just fantastic wide receiver play. I think Darnold has really... They've got a massive decision to make, Minnesota going forward. Do you pay the man? I would. Why? If you're already at 14 wins, I'm sorry, but why break something? Or why get rid of something that's not broken? Why try and fix it? You've still got JJ McCarthy there in a rookie contract. Like, develop him, sit him back, see what happens in 3-4 years. You don't know what Darnold's going to do. If it's not, you've maybe got a tradable asset there anyway. So pay the man. And then for the Packers, again, I think it's just one of these games that could have went either way. Again, it's close games, only 2 points in it. I think they've got a wee bit of work still they need to do. Again, some of the receivers, just obviously missing Watson there, but, Romeo Dobbs stepped him up, Tucker Kraft stepped him up. You just need a wee bit more from him. Guys like Jaden Reed, for example, I think he only had one catch or something for like 6 yards in this game. Just need a wee bit more. Josh Jacobs, again, they're going to need to rely heavily on him. So again, I wouldn't be overly worried if I'm a Green Bay fan. You're safely into the playoffs. It is just try and keep yourself heavy, get healthy, get yourself ready for sort of the next the next stage into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think exactly what you said there on Darnold. Massive decision for the Vikings. You're mentioning obviously about sitting JJ McCarthy for kind of 2-3 years. They just needed to look across the field to see what happens. Jordan Love sat for 4 years behind Aaron Rodgers. Last season, they saw the fruits of that labour. And why not do that with McCarthy? As you said, 14-win season off the back of Sam Darnold. Give the man his payment. Keep him for a couple of seasons. Maybe you've then got a tradable asset, as you mentioned, and you bring McCarthy in. Totally agree with that one. The one disappointing thing I kind of remember for this game when I kind of tuned in was the Justin Jefferson catch getting pulled back on a holding penalty. He makes an unbelievable one-handed grab. We are kind of probably getting used to it with Justin Jefferson. So disappointing to kind of see that come back. It was just an electric catch, and couldn't not mention it.
You just run out of things to say about him. Like he's constantly just pushing to the next level. Again, like Jamar Chase is up there pushing him every step of the way as well. It's a great thing to see. Hopefully we've got another 10 years or whatever it is of just watching these two guys go at it. It's for because they just seem to just push these boundaries. It's great to watch. And I know it's fantasy owner sort of thing at the start of the year. I was like, how's Justin Jefferson going to be this year? Sam Darnold's thrown to him. We don't know how that's going to be, but he just showed it doesn't matter. You hoof it in his direction, that boy will come back with the ball. One way or another, he's getting it.
It goes back to the old Mahomes one when he had Tyreek Hill. Fuck it, how's it there somewhere type thing. And the Vikings and the Bengals have got that in Chase and Jefferson. It's like, just fuck it. Those two are down there somewhere. Let's go for it.
Yep. So, let them go and just moss it,
Aye. I think it's going to be interesting the fact that we're obviously taught about how good the NFC North has been. When it comes to the playoffs, there's a good chance one of these three teams, whoever doesn't finish with the one seed out the Lions and Vikings, the other two are probably got a good chance of playing against each other at some stage, or even the Vikings have got a good chance of meeting one of the other two as well. So I think it's going to be fascinating. We're going to get another divisional matchup in the playoffs again, and they've been fascinating watches all season. So last game for us then, mate, is literally the last game of the night. From a personal standpoint, I don't want to talk about this one too much because Terry McLaurin was absolutely anonymous, and that's purely from a fantasy perspective the reason I don't want to talk about it. But the Commanders sealing their playoff spot, beating the Falcons in overtime. Zach Ertz getting the touchdown. I think it was 30-26 was the final score, if I remember right.
30-24.
30-24. Again, I watched this first quarter of this one, a kind of slow burner to kind of start off. Falcons doing some interesting things, obviously trying to kind of protect Penix. You had Bijan Robinson with a wildcat for the first touchdown. Penix getting his first touchdown as well on this one. But yeah, Washington kind of nailing their playoff spot and putting the Falcons out of playoff contention. The Falcons are now reliant on the Bucks, messing up in the final week of the season against the Saints, I think they've got. So yeah, I don't know if you caught much of this game. Jaden Daniels again was unbelievable for the Commanders. Showed his rushing ability, showed his passing ability. Really has been a great pickup for the Commanders and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, he's excellent. He really is. And, I think he is probably odds on for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah. I personally think it's Brock Bowers, but, again, we're always heavy on quarterbacks. But, you can see, they've taken a Washington team to, 11 wins they are now, taking them into the playoffs. It's amazing what a competent coaching staff can do with a rookie quarterback. Take note, others. And again, it was just obviously rushing. I think 127 yards rushing on 16 carries. Past 227 yards, 3 touchdowns. They've just got a really well-rounded team. They don't rely on any one particular person. You've got Robinson, obviously in there with 60 yards to add. To Zach Ertz is still in there after all these years. I think he was a very productive day for him. I think he got an extra $750,000 in incentives with that catch. I think it took him over about 600 yards receiving and however many touchdowns and everything like that. And good on him. It's a nice wee Christmas bonus there. A nice 750k. I think for the Falcons, it's just, again, I wouldn't say it's a wasted year for them. I think there's been parts that they can really build on. It'll be interesting to see how Michael Penix continues to develop. He had a pretty horrendous interception, but then again, some tackling the boy to bring him back out, get him out of bounds and bring him down. But Bijan Robinson is just phenomenal. What a player he is! He's just, I forget how many missed tackles or something he has, but I'm sure he's leading the league. And there was a Kyle Pitts touchdown. We've seen one of them. That was. Yeah, interesting. We'll see if we can build on that. Then again, they do have some good bits with Darnell Mooney. They've got Drake London in there. We see over 100 yards, I think, this game as well. So again, I think there's some nice pieces there for the Falcons to build on. I think the Commanders, though, again, look a comfortable sort of team. Again, I wasn't too sure about some of the kind of late stages of this game, about actually getting into overtime and the way things are managed. But I think if you're a Commanders fan, I think you're pretty happy with the way this season's went. I think you're happy with the new coaching staff. You're happy with your quarterback. You know very well that with the new owners as well in there, they're a far more attractive proposition now for free agents they want to go to. So yeah, I think everything's rolling up for them. And again, it's just on their day. Are you going to want to face them or not? Because they are dangerous. They're not consistent. They're not going to go all the way. But again, they could give somebody a bloody nose in the playoffs.
No, definitely. I mean, I think interesting. I know Lattimore was standing on the sidelines for them. Obviously, they traded for him to kind of help on that secondary side of things. He's one of these difference makers in your secondary. He can, similar to what you guys have got in Gonzalez, he will lock down a number one wide receiver. Similar to what we've seen AJ Terrell do. He shadowed Terry McLaurin all night, kept McLaurin to one catch for 7 yards or something like that. These guys are... Not that I was tracking, by the way.
No, you're tracking. No, it was 5 yards.
It wasn't 5 yards. 5 yards. But these guys are so vital to good defences. You need to be able to lock down that back end. If you can get somebody that can do that, and if Lattimore can get fit, it could give them that dimension to their secondary that they'll need in the playoffs, because they're going to come up against Vikings, they're going to come up against Lions, Packers, Rams. These are all teams that have got elite wide receivers. You need somebody to take away that first option, so to make the quarterback think, and I think Lattimore will do that. Just depends how fit he can be for them. Similar to what you said with the Falcons, again, some excellent pieces there. They've got a great 1-2 in the running back room, and Robinson and Algier. Those two guys, Algier more than capable in stepping up in Robinson's absence. We've not seen as much of him because Robinson's been fit for the vast majority of the year. But I think it's easy to forget that he was a 1,000-yard rusher the season he was the lead back. So it is a good back for them. London, again, young guy. Pitts, young guy. There are pieces there, obviously. Penix, rookie. Be interested to see how he develops. So, again, I think the Falcons started the season hot. It's tailed away for them. But be interested to see what they can do going into the off-season, the draft, and, well, this is if the Bucks don't fuck it up, let's be honest. But
which they shouldn't.
They shouldn't. But
stranger things have happened.
Exactly. It's week 18, so...
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd be slightly concerned about, though, is the fact that this Falcons defence actually managed to sack Jaden Daniels 5 times in this game. Now, all things considered, they've not been able to get after a quarterback at all this year. They've been pretty poor, even when they did trade for like Judon and try to get him in. He did a sack in this game, but, their pass rush has been pretty ineffective. So, again, if you're going up against a Philadelphia Eagles, for example, or a Vikings defense with Brian Flores defense, whoever it is, they end up facing in the playoffs, I would be worried about that. That's the one thing I think could be a big weakness for them.
Yeah, I think the pass rush has been better the last couple of weeks, but yeah, overall as a whole, I think it has been definitely questionable for them. So that's probably something they are going to be looking at, particularly in the off-season, or maybe through the draft, as we kind of mentioned. So just briefly then, just to wrap up, we've got one game to go tonight. It is the 49ers and the Lions. 49ers, again, season's already over for them. Not ideal, obviously. Everybody kind of thought they would be in that playoff hunt at this stage. The Lions still pushing for that 1 seed and obviously taking the NFC North as well. So I think, as you mentioned, most people are wanting to see the Lions win this one, so as we have got that battle for number 1 seed.
Oh, do we want them? No, we do. We do want them to win. Sorry. Yeah, I was kind of looking at that there and making sure I would say the right way around. But no, definitely, I think both of them you want both of them getting 14 wins, just sitting on that head-to-head ahead, and then just the winner takes all, Yeah. Rather than some weird combination,
I think the only people hoping the Lions probably lose is probably the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, because I think that would bring them back into the number 1 conversation potentially. From my own personal perspective, from, again, fantasy football, I need Amon Ra to disappear tonight. So if he can, it doesn't even need to disappear, as long as he scores under 22 points, I'll be happy. So we will see. But I think the Lions are obviously heavy favourites on this one. They're 7-0 away from home, 13-2 record. San Francisco are 500 at home. I think it should be a Lions win, especially the way Gibbs, for example, he's been unbelievable this season, taking on the lead back role in Montgomery's absence now. Jared Goff, again, unbelievable season for him. He's by the 4,000-yard mark. It'll be an interesting game, but I do expect the Lions to kind of become pretty comfortable in this one, even in Santa Clara.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a game you expect them just going to take care of. San Francisco have got nothing to play for. It's hard to see their team get motivated. It's still professional sports at the end of the day, but at the same time, there's a lot of people probably focusing in that next stage. Like they're saying there, I see San Francisco ripping everything up. There's a lot of expensive players. They've got big decisions to make, about per day and whether they pay them or not. There's obviously a lot of money going about to various other people in that team, if it's George Kittle or Ayuk or Samuel or, so there's a lot of parts in there. They've got a lot to kind of look at. And I think when there's one eye sort of off the ball and that there's some players who are probably looking after their own health. No one to be doing an Achilles in or an ACL or anything like that in a dead rubber game for them. And you expect just the Lions they'll just be hoping to get through healthy. That's the only thing they'll be hoping for. They can't
understatement of the century, that one. They just can't
it's amazing what they're actually doing given the injuries they have. And again, that's just credit to that coaching staff, Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson and what's the DC again? Aaron Glenn. They've just done absolutely phenomenal. And as kind of neutral who's getting to sit back and just look at all these teams who are going into the playoffs, I've got a big soft spot for the Lions. I think everybody loves a sort of underdog, somebody that's not sort of done it. And it's hard for me. I kind of like the Vikings as well. And so, the great time down in London with a lot of their fans, and they're always good crack. So, I hope they win it, and I hope then there's something to still play for getting into next week. Because I've got to say, mate, as you kind of look at the playoff picture this year, and it's been pretty standard. There's not exactly been a lot of chop and change in the top for a long time now. For a number of weeks, it's been pretty set, particularly in the AFC, who was going to make it and who was going to win the divisions. And it's kind of just set itself up that way. So at least it gives us something to look forward to next week, rather than just watching a whole bunch of the reserves and the QB 2s and 3s taking snaps and seeing what all the backup players can actually do. So,
aye, no, 100%. As I say, I think getting the Vikings Lions win, so it sets up that Vikings game. So the Lions beat the Vikings earlier in the season. Aye, I think we all want that Lions win just to kind of set up. I think it's a Sunday night football game. I think that's already been confirmed that's going to be the Sunday night football game next week. So it'll be the early morning for us. But definitely one that's worth staying up for on that front. So, but we see how it goes. As I say, I'll be quite happy for a low scoring Lions win on this one. They can make it like the Seahawks and Bears, and I'll be absolutely delighted. Kev will not be, because that's who I'm playing against, their very own IRN-CRU Kev. So, I'm in Randall, and I'll be happy.
It's all about the fantasy, mate, and it's all about the fantasy.
Well, it's championship week, mate, so
that's it.
Got to kind of look out for it, but I'll see how it goes, man. Right, well, that kind of takes us through all the games. So, seen a lot of folk watching on Instagram. So, thanks very much for joining us. Just like to remind you all just to give us a like, follow, subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts or YouTube. All your social medias, we're all on there as well. So give us a like, subscribe and follow on there. And of course, to our Scottish Pats fan, with his Twitter handle on there, Danny, thanks very much for joining me tonight, mate.
No, it was an absolute pleasure, mate. I thoroughly enjoy it as always. It's always a fun time of year. I think the games are always good. It's weird because we were never sure what day of the week it is. We only go by the number of pints we've probably consumed in different days. So it's been good just to try that off. I find the NFL this, the review on a Monday. Right, okay, I know it's Monday because all the games were on yesterday. So it's a nice wee kind of a wee flagpole in the middle of the festive period just before we set up for the Hogmanay festivities.
No, definitely, man. It's all the kind of days just kind of blur into one over this last week, but I think you kind of get to the point of when sobriety hits, you realise that's the game's finished. And you get the beer.
That's an awful thought, and it means we're going back to work soon, mate.
I know. Well, I went back today, so unfortunately, but all good, man, all good. No, listen, again, thanks very much for joining us and help me rattle through this week 17, man, and that is it from the crew and the review crew, taking you through all your reserves and whoever else is playing. What Mitch Trubisky versus, I don't even know at this stage, I can't remember. No, it'll be Mitch Trubisky and Drake May. Sorry, I'm forgetting it's you guys eventually.
I think the Patriots really need to see what we've got in Joe Milton the third. It's just a Joe.
Like carrying arm Joe.
The tank is on.
Oh man, that would be quite funny if it was like Mitch Trubisky versus Joe Milton.
We can hope.
Oh, brilliant.
I would watch that. That'd be worth watching just to see if he actually does try to lob it 90 yards.
See how many
just for a laugh.
See how many interceptions we can get in one game.
And that can set up a record.
And Bill and Jameis playing for each side. No, listen, again, thanks very much, man. And for everyone watching along, as I said, thanks for joining us. And the review crew will be back later on in the week to take you through week 18. So thanks very much, everyone.